Argentina is plunged into one of the most severe crises in its recent history. With inflation surpassing 140%, the national currency plummeting and mass protests in the streets, the country faces a scenario of uncertainties and challenges. The controversial policies of President Javier Milei aimed at economic liberalization and public spending cuts have caused deep divisions in society. Amidst this chaos, millions of Argentinians struggle daily to survive and maintain hope for a better future. Argentina's trajectory, marked by cycles of prosperity and crisis, reveals an intriguing paradox. At the beginning of the 20th century, Argentina was one of the richest nations in the world, rivaling European economies such as France and Germany. However, from the 1930s onwards, a series of unsustainable economic policies and an over-reliance on commodity exports such as beef and wheat initiated a cycle of economic decline that would extend for decades. In the 1990s, Argentina attempted to break from the past by adopting market reforms, liberalizing trade, deregulating sectors, and privatizing state-owned enterprises. Pegging the peso to the US dollar was a bold attempt to stabilize the economy, but culminated in a devastating collapse in 2001, when the country could not honor a $95 billion debt, the largest default in history at the time. This event plunged the nation into a deep recession, resulting in a dramatic increase in poverty and unemployment. The following years saw an attempt at recovery, spurred by a global commodities boom that allowed Néstor Kirchner's government to pay off nearly $10 billion to the IMF. However, the interventionist policies of his successor, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, such as price and export controls and the nationalization of companies, once again inflated public debt and destabilized the economy. More recently, Mauricio Macri's government sought to restore international market confidence by reducing export taxes and negotiating a deal with creditors. Despite a brief period of recovery, the crisis re-emerged in 2018, leading to a record $44 billion agreement with the IMF. Under the leadership of Alberto Fernández and now Javier Milei, Argentina continues to struggle with rampant inflation and unsustainable debt. How have these economic policies impacted the daily lives of Argentinians? What are the social implications of this crisis, and how is the population reacting? Argentina is facing an unprecedented economic crisis, characterized by rampant inflation and a sharp devaluation of the local currency. Inflation, which has already surpassed 140%, has a devastating effect on citizens' purchasing power, making the acquisition of essential goods such as food and medicine extremely difficult. This situation is exacerbated by the continued devaluation of the Argentine peso, leading many to seek alternatives like the US dollar to preserve their savings. The drastic cuts in public spending and market liberalization policies adopted by Javier Milei's government aim to stabilize the economy, but have generated significant controversy. These measures include reducing subsidies and privatizing public services, which critics argue increase inequality and hinder access to essential services for the most vulnerable segments of the population. Public debt is also a constant concern, with the country facing difficulties in honoring its international financial commitments. The recently adopted economic policies seek to reverse years of mismanagement and ineffective economic interventions. However, the immediate impact has been an increase in the cost of living and a crisis of confidence in the government's ability to stabilize the situation. The Argentine economy, historically marked by cycles of growth and crisis, continues to face deep structural challenges that require sustainable and long-term solutions. But how is this economic crisis directly affecting the daily lives of Argentinians? The Argentine economic crisis has had a profound and multifaceted impact on society. Beyond financial difficulties, the crisis has significantly increased social inequality. The gap between the richest and the poorest has widened, with a segment of the population able to maintain their standard of living while the majority struggle to survive. This disparity is evident in the streets of Buenos Aires and other major cities, where the contrast between luxurious areas and slums is striking. The deterioration in living conditions has led to a rise in crime. Desperate for resources, many have turned to illicit activities as a means of survival. This has created a vicious cycle of violence and insecurity affecting both urban and rural areas. The increased presence of security forces on the streets often falls short of containing the crime wave that besets the country. The crisis has also affected social cohesion. Protests and strikes have become a constant, with different sectors of society expressing their discontent with the government. Health workers, teachers and public employees frequently unite in demonstrations, demanding better working conditions and decent wages. These mobilisations reflect a deeply dissatisfied and divided society, where trust in governmental institutions is at a low. The psychological impact of this crisis cannot be underestimated. The constant uncertainty and economic difficulties have led to a rise in cases of depression and anxiety. Many Argentinians report feeling a deep sense of hopelessness about the future, which has a debilitating effect on collective mental health. Mental health organisations are overwhelmed, trying to provide support to a population facing unprecedented levels of stress. Given this scenario, the question arises: what specific policies of Javier Milei are generating such controversy, and how are they impacting different sectors of Argentine society? Javier Milei, known for his radical economic stance, assumed the presidency with the promise of deep and liberalising reforms. His policies aim to drastically reduce the role of the state in the economy, believing that government intervention is the root cause of Argentina's economic problems. Among the most notable measures is the elimination of subsidies to sectors such as energy and transport, which he argues is necessary to balance public finances and reduce the fiscal deficit. Another central policy of Milei is the privatisation of state-owned enterprises. He argues that the efficiency of the private sector can bring significant improvements to public services and reduce corruption. However, these privatisations have generated controversy, with critics claiming that such measures could lead to increased tariffs and the exclusion of segments of the population unable to afford higher costs. The sale of state assets also raises concerns about the loss of control over strategic sectors of the economy. Additionally, Milei has advocated for the deregulation of the labour market, making hiring and firing easier to stimulate employment. He believes that a more flexible labour market can attract investments and dynamise the economy. However, unions and workers fear that these changes could lead to precarious working conditions and reduce labour rights. Milei's policies thus divide public opinion, garnering support among business owners and scepticism among workers and economists who point to potential long-term negative consequences. What do you think about Milei's policies? Do you believe the state should have minimal participation in the country's economy, or do you support a more interventionist approach? This is a very delicate subject, so share your opinion in the comments. I'm interested to know what you think would be the best solution. How do these policies compare to the strategies adopted by other Latin American countries facing similar economic crises? Argentina's economic crisis can be contextualized through comparisons with other Latin American nations facing similar challenges. Countries like Venezuela and Brazil have also dealt with high inflation rates and currency devaluation. In Venezuela, hyperinflation has reached catastrophic levels, resulting in a humanitarian crisis with shortages of food and medicine. The government's rigid control over the economy and dependence on oil have exacerbated the situation. Brazil, on the other hand, has implemented a series of economic reforms, including fiscal adjustments and austerity measures, to try to stabilise its economy, with mixed results. Argentina's approach under Javier Milei, focused on privatisation and reducing the role of the state, contrasts with the more interventionist trajectory of Venezuela and the combination of liberal and social policies in Brazil. While Milei's reforms seek to attract foreign investment and stimulate the economy, critics argue that these measures could increase inequality and social instability. Comparing these strategies allows for a broader analysis of the potential solutions and pitfalls that Argentina might face. But what are the future prospects for the Argentine economy, and how might the proposed solutions shape the path to recovery? The future of Argentina's economy is uncertain and heavily dependent on the effective implementation of the proposed reforms and the government's ability to stabilise the current situation. Javier Milei faces the monumental challenge of balancing the need for austerity with the demand for social protection. Economic recovery will require a coordinated effort to control inflation, stabilise the peso, and reduce public debt. Additionally, attracting foreign investments will be crucial to revitalise strategic sectors and foster sustainable growth. The The prospects will also depend on the government's ability to restore confidence among the population and international markets. Policies that promote transparency and government efficiency, along with a business-friendly regulatory environment, can help create a more positive outlook. However, without a balanced approach that considers social needs, there is a significant risk that the reforms could exacerbate social tensions and inequality. Argentina is at a critical juncture where the decisions made now will shape its path for the coming decades. The economic, social and political crisis facing Argentina is a reflection of decades of structural challenges and inconsistent policies. Runaway inflation, currency devaluation and growing social inequality are deep-rooted problems that require comprehensive and sustainable solutions. The reforms proposed by Javier Milei, although controversial, aim to restructure the economy and attract foreign investments. But they also carry the risk of increasing social tensions if not implemented with sensitivity to the needs of the population. Comparing Argentina's situation with other Latin American countries, we see that there is no single solution. Each nation faces its own challenges, and Argentina can learn from both the successes and failures of its neighbours. The key to recovery lies in finding a balance between economic stabilisation and social protection. Austerity measures need to be accompanied by policies that support the most vulnerable, ensuring that economic recovery benefits all sectors of society. The future of Argentina is at a critical inflection point. The decisions made now by its leaders will have lasting implications for the country's economic and social well-being. With a balanced and inclusive approach, there is hope that Argentina can overcome this crisis and build a more stable and prosperous future for its citizens. The resilience and determination of the Argentine people will be crucial in this process, and the international community can also play an important role in supporting the country on its path to recovery. What do you think about the crisis in Argentina? Will the country soon find salvation and emerge from the crisis, or will the situation worsen for Argentinians with Javier Milei as president? Share your opinion in the comments, and feel free to suggest other topics you'd like to see covered here. If this video provided you with valuable insights, don't forget to like and subscribe to the What is Happening channel if you haven't already. See you in the next video.